Verse 136. The reality of objects is seen being discriminated by the ignorant. If it were so as they are seen, all would be seeing the truth. This is the assumption we make. We assume that there are things out there which have their own reality. This is the assumption of science. It's the assumption of religion. The difference between the two, the difference between science and religion, isn't that they argue for the reality of the world out there. They argue about our relationship with it. Religion will tell us that some of the things out there are good and some are bad. We've got to strive for the good. If we do, we'll be rewarded in heaven. And if we don't, we'll suffer in hell. I think that's a fair summing up of the religious attitude. The scientific attitude is, yes, there are things out there. It's all fairly neutral though. We don't pass any moral judgment on what is good and what is bad. What we're interested in is the reality behind these things out there. Science likes to think it's involved in reality, and it measures its success by the way it's able to predict things, by the way it's able to give us control of this environment. For some reason, this is assumed to be the measure of truth. I don't see the connection myself, but this seems to be the assumption which science makes for its claim to truth. The more control we have, the more we're in touch with truth. It's rather bizarre. So both religion and science are in agreement on this point, that there are things out there. They just differ in terms of how we relate to these things out there. Now, in the previous video, I spoke about the middle way, which I described as conscious art. It's the artist which doesn't really accept either the religious or the scientific point of view. There's something else going on which the artist must find out for himself and must express for himself. The artist works out his own relationship with what's going on out there. They might be influenced by religion or science, or maybe by both, but essentially they have to find their own response. But we've got something new here. We've got something new here in this very ancient text, in the Lankavatara Sutra. It's telling us that what we understand as objects out there have no intrinsic reality. They have no underlying reality. This completely undermines both religion and science, because if they've got no underlying reality, well, that's science scuppered as far as telling us the truth. There's nothing wrong with trying to control things. You know, if you want to control things, it's good, because, you know, we're getting rid of disease and all the rest of it. So this isn't an anti-science message. However, it's anti-science as truth. Science can give us control, but it doesn't give us truth. So, The Lankavatara is telling us that there's no underlying reality. You can smash things up as much as you like. You can you can spend billions on your Large Hadron Colliders, but you're still not going to get to the truth. So that's science as a vehicle for truth completely undermined. And if these things have no intrinsic reality, well, that completely undermines religion, doesn't it? Because it means that there's no intrinsic difference between anything. The discrimination between one thing and another, the discrimination between good and bad or good and evil, has no basis. The reality of objects is assumed by both religion and science. Both are ultimately discriminations by the ignorant. Otherwise it would all be true. Science would be true and religion would be true. This leads into verse 137, which tells us, as all things are unreal, there is neither defilement nor purity. Things are not as they are seen, nor are they otherwise. So defilement or purity, good and evil. Traditional spirituality, even within the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, is concerned with moving from defilement to purity. Again, nothing wrong with that. That's what you want to do. It's a good thing to do. But it's not leading us to truth because it's based on discrimination. It's based on believing in an objective reality. So we're told that things are not as they are seen. So things are not as they are seen, although it's probably best to say things are not as they are believed to be, because we've got this backstory about the reality of what we're seeing. The backstory for the scientific types is a mathematical one. The backstory for religious types is a moral and ethical one. So it's this backstory that we're not interested in. It's in this sense that things are not as they are seen, nor are they otherwise, because they very much are as they are seen. There's nothing more to it. Everything is as it is. Not as we believe them to be, but as they are.